Hey, what's up? My name is Jose Duncan Jr., and I would like to welcome you to the Unnatural Born Leader podcast. Hey, what's up? Welcome to episode 38 of the Unnatural Born Leader podcast. 1 month in, New Year 2021 has been quite interesting. The last few weeks has also been quite interesting, and then we'll talk a little bit about that today. But I just want to welcome you guys to episode 38. Such a humbling feeling to still be doing this. Think about transitioning into a new type of format on the podcast and just seeing how it goes. So continue to appreciate the feedback and the direct contact I've been getting regarding the podcast, and I read all the reviews, and so I really appreciate you guys continuing to leave a review and enjoy the content, enjoy the podcast. So we're going to start a new segment for the next few weeks. And it's something that's very important to me, and it's a concept that I've expressed extensively in my book as well, particularly in part 1 of my book. So I want to get a little deeper into that concept today, and really open up about this thing called self-awareness. You see it everywhere. It's spoken about everywhere. I'm sure if you follow Gary Vee, he talks about it all the time. And it's just this ability to be aware or be in the know of your own behaviors, and based on what you know about yourself, how to navigate yourself in handling some of the shortcomings or handling some of the success. Self-awareness is primarily about just knowing who you are and knowing how to get the best out of yourself with the tools you have available. It's not easy. It does take time, and I think we never stop exploring self-awareness, but we find new ways to explore it. And just want to dive deeper into that today. So I hope you guys enjoy the podcast, and let's get right into it. So recently I've been having some really great conversations with coworkers. One in particular, we were talking about some behaviors we see in each other, just off the bat, right? So we're just noticing some of the behaviors we see in each other, and not in a negative way, but just more about just reading the room and just reading energy pretty well. We both do it pretty well. And she told me some things that she noticed. She told me some things that some behaviors that she noticed that I had. And as it's easy to defend ourselves in some of these situations where someone tells us about ourselves, I decided to, really listen and take in what that person was saying and really make some context of it. So we were talking about, obviously, the common conversations, relationships, life, money, finance, all that type of stuff, just interacting. And she says, hey, you seem like you have some small narcissistic tendencies. And knowing the word narcissist is a negative word, I wanted to defend myself in that instance. I wanted to say, I'm not a narcissist, or that's not a trait that fits with me, and I don't have narcissistic disorder or anything like that. And she said, I'm not saying that you have a disorder. I'm saying that you have these narcissistic traits. So obviously that didn't go over too well in my mind, but I went home that day and I started really looking up some of this behavior and having talks with other friends about narcissistic behavior and what that means. Because obviously if someone tells me something like this, it's definitely something as a self-aware person that I'm going to explore more about it so I can understand why that person said that, right? So I'm happy to say that I don't have narcissistic disorder, but one thing I do realize is that I I have definitely expressed behaviors in the past that seems a bit manipulative in different ways. And it's not all negative, right? So I definitely have done things to get something out of someone. I've done things to induce a reaction out of someone. I've taken steps, I've said things to see how someone will react to it, to see what their counter behavior is. I've caused things to see the effect. And it's a balance with that, right? When I'm trying to get the best out of someone or help a client out a lot or just really try to help someone in a certain way, it can be a little unorthodox. I can try to get them to open up more. I can try to get them to react to something I said. I can try to motivate them. I can try to get them thinking deeper, right? And that's all with the ability to manipulate some things that we think about or just understand people and try to dive deeper into their own minds so we can pull something out of them. So that's the positive side of manipulation, knowing how to take something that you've seen in someone and how to reverse engineer it to get the best out of them, right? So it's not all terrible with that character trait, but the negative side of it is that it's not always okay to try to get a reaction out of someone. Sometimes that can be overwhelming for that person, or that person can feel very judged and stripped and feel like they're not good enough. And that's something I've definitely faced in prior relationships. I'll admit to that. It's just knowing that sometimes I need to know when to peel back, right? I have been extra. I have gone too far, or I have not known when to just keep my thoughts to myself, or not knowing when to just leave things alone, right? And not pick at it or be greedy or bother it too much. Knowing how to detach when I'm attached to something, right? The detachment issues, and how that's made me manipulate things so I can continue to get whatever satisfaction out of it, right? So that's the very much the negative part of having that character trait, and it's something that I've become more aware of. And having that conversation with my coworker has definitely made me more aware of that trait. And I never desired to be a perfect person, never desired to be this perfect individual, but I do want to find a balance with that where I'm using it effectively more times than not. And that's what it's all about. That's what self-awareness is all about. It's about finding a balance with your strength and your weaknesses. And a lot of times your strengths will be your weaknesses. And I'll dive into that a little bit more here later. But self-awareness, the framework of self-awareness is merely finding a balance within yourself. And it's a constant battle. It's a constant balancing act. And I've expressed how important balancing acts are for different areas of our lives. So in my book that I released last Tuesday, excited to say over 40 copies have been shipped out, and a lot of friends and people I've known or people I've come in contact with in my life have received their copies, and I'm really humbled by that, and I'm excited for you guys to read those chapters and tell me what you think. Continue to support me. I really appreciate that. And if you listen to the podcast and if you haven't got a chance to get the book is available on Amazon. The paperback copy is available on Amazon. The name of the book is The Greatest Fight Within: Overcoming Self-Disappointment While Living with High Expectations. So that's available on Amazon as we speak, and look forward to getting the ebook copy available to you guys as well. But in the book, part one was self-awareness. I think it was a fitting time to start with that. In those chapters of self-awareness, I really started to decipher my childhood. I started to reverse engineer my upbringing to make sense of some of the things that happened to me, around me, for me, and make sense of some of the choices I made, and just understanding now as an adult why I made those choices, right? Something in me caused me to make certain choices. Something in me caused me to do things a certain way. And although I was a young kid, some things are very much intuitive throughout our entire lives. So, in that first 4 chapters of self awareness, I'm talking about just some of the experiences I'm having with myself, with people, with football, and how I learned to have those experiences, but really make sense of them. And not only for the positive experiences in life, but some of the negative experiences. There's understanding that needs to be made there. There is lessons in those experiences. There is behavior patterns in those experiences as we're growing. And at some point, we all will likely decipher that information, decipher those experiences to make sense of our lives as adults. And this is something I've learned in conversation with other people around me, older people, people twice my age. They say these same things, that a lot of your life you're reflecting on your past experiences and making sense of your behavior patterns. And somewhere along the way, we decide to do something different or we don't. And it's all part of the behavior patterns we carry throughout our lives. And I'm 25 years old, but I have a lot of conversations in depth with people older than me, people from different walks of life than me, people from different experiences and backgrounds. And that's what's so great about living in New York City, because it's so diverse and so expanded. You get people from all different experiences coming in one place, and you get to meet a lot of these type of people and have genuine, deep conversations with them and allow their experiences to penetrate your mind, and give you the information you need to do better and to share it with people in your circle. But self-awareness has been a beacon of my book. I think I couldn't start that book without having a part about self-awareness. And I dabbled with different names for it. Felt to be appropriate to name it different things at the time. But ultimately, we got down to self-awareness and what that really means, and exactly what I'm trying to say in those chapters is that we're all flawed individuals. And the people who taught us how to live life, how to interact, our parents, our grandparents, as people in our family, the people who taught us only taught us what they knew. They couldn't teach us what they did not know. And to that point, we become very quickly what the people who's teaching us know. If that makes sense, what I'm trying to say is that what our parents know and understand, we know and understand. And that's our first experience of being competent with life, right? So that self-awareness I was feeling in those chapters was all about how did I learn how to be tough on myself? How did I learn how to take accountability? How did I learn how to communicate effectively with people? How did I learn how to take coaching? How did I learn how to be tough? How did I learn self-disappointment? Where did I learn self-punishment? How did I get this way? And I think that's a powerful question we can ask ourselves at any point in time. Although the audience I'm seeking here is 18 to 26 years old, I think at any point in time, we can ask ourselves that question. How did I get here? Right? It's a blessing to be where you are. Let's not deny that. It's a blessing to still be here. Life is truly short. And if you have experienced losing people close to you, you understand ever so more why life is very short. So, why am I here? How did I get here? Why am I having these behaviors? What do these patterns mean? And that's what self awareness is, right? It's not for you to be depressed or be anxious or beat up on yourself. It's just for you to understand, right? There's nothing in life where you don't try to understand something because understanding brings clarity, and clarity brings action. Clarity brings focus. Clarity brings intention, right? We're all searching for that clarity. And once we find it, we feel free. We feel that we can break out of what's been holding us back because now we're clear. Now we have a focus, a target. And when we have a target, it's easier for us to implement the right behaviors to hit that target. But if we're just aiming blindly, going through life not seeking clarity, we will never know what our target is. We'll always change our target. People will give us their targets and it's not for us, right? So self-awareness is the ultimate discovery of clarity. And I think that's powerful. And I think that in time, as we continue to seek clarity, the universe will give you things that are signs or omens to help you out along your journey. You just have to trust that and be optimistic that that self-awareness is very important and it's key to get that implemented in your life early on. One powerful piece of self-awareness that I've learned in as it pertains to other individuals in my life is that the more I practice, I want to emphasize practice here because self-awareness is not a destination, people. It's not. So the more I practice self-awareness, the less I judge individuals around me. All right? Let me break that down. So the more I am in tune with my behaviors and my patterns and some of the choices I make and why I make those choices, the less I judge other people for the choices they make. I merely think that everyone wants to do better. They want to contribute to society. They want to chase their dreams. They want to be kind, right? No one wants to outright hurt people, right? There's a pattern of behavior and experiences that causes a person to act in that way. And the more I understand some of my flaws, mainly, I realize that I cannot judge another person for their choices. I can only hold them accountable for it. And that's the special part, right? As an adult, even as a young teenager, you don't have to make the best absolute choice all the time. It's really difficult. There's a lot of decisions in life, and it can be extremely difficult to make the right ones over and over again, right? But holding an individual accountable for that choice is extremely important. And doesn't mean it's always a punishment for that choice if it's a negative choice, but just making that person aware that the choice they made was a choice. It wasn't a reaction. It wasn't. It wasn't the world. It wasn't the universe. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was a choice that was made, and something propelled them to that choice. And I know people say, "Oh, I wasn't thinking." That's untrue. You was thinking. It's just that some of your behaviors has led you to make that choice, and you need to take a closer look at your behaviors now, right? So it's hard to judge another person when you know their decisions is merely based on behavior patterns, right? And it's easy to predict behavior patterns, but also humans are so unpredictable, right? So once again, it's a balancing act of trying to identify someone's predictable behaviors, also realizing that at any point people can be unpredictable. You never know what one individual's thinking at any time. You never will know what one individual's believing. You never know what one individual is making sense of, and why they're making sense of that. You may not even be thinking in that spectrum of thought as that other person. So it's difficult to always generalize and judge people for all of the decisions they make. Right? We are no in position. We're not in position to just judge people and believe that we're doing something significantly better. Only people we can judge is ourselves. We must aim to understand people, before we place extensive judgment on them. And I say extensive judgment because we all judge a book by its cover. Uh, as an author, no pun intended, but as an author, I created my cover in a way so I can be judged by my cover. So I understand that we do judge books by their cover, but beyond that, we must go into their book of life, right, and understand their story, right? And while we're trying to understand their story, we must reflect on our own story. And that storytelling process is conversation. And in those conversations we have with people, we understand them and we judge them less, right? Do you ever find that you may walk into a new job, a new team, or a new environment, and you see someone and you're placing these preconceived judgments on that person? You think, oh, that person doesn't like me, or that person, we might not get along, or our energies are not the same, or that person thinks she's too hot, or he's arrogant, or whatever. And then you grab lunch one day and you see that person and you guys have a conversation and it's completely opposite of what you thought about the person, right? I know that happens because it happened to me dozens of times. So especially with just predicting someone's voice, right? Predicting that someone's gonna sound a certain way when you start talking to them, and they sound completely different, right? So we must aim to understand rather than judge people, and that comes with an extreme amount of self-awareness, into knowing that we are just members of society like the other person. So while we don't want to be judged all the time because we feel like we're misunderstood, it's important that we don't judge others the same way, right? Self-awareness is an act of leadership. Self-awareness is taking the lead of your own life, looking at yourself through a third-person perspective, and exposing yourself to you. So the mental framework we're talking about here today is just being more self-aware so you can pursue clarity. And when you find clarity, you have a better direction as to where you need to go and how you need to go there. So it's a practice. It's a practice. It's not a destination. There's no point in time when you're saying, hey, today I'm finally self-aware. At that point, you have so much more work to do, because just knowing your shit is the beginning, right? Working on it, getting your routines down, getting resources, seeking help is a whole nother ballgame. So just knowing your shit and realizing how the hell you got that way is just the beginning of the story that you are going to write. So just wanted to come on and talk about self-awareness and how powerful it is to adapt this mental framework, and how powerful it is to expose yourself to your own behaviors. And I think that we can do a better job in using the resources around us. We can do a better job in spending more time in silence to reflect on our behaviors during the day, or things we said to people, or how we acted, or just what we thought during the day, just going over our thoughts, right? And that all comes with spending more time in silence, and just being with yourself, and getting in tune with who you are. So just wrapping it all up there. So I'm going to stop here. The next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about self-awareness, and really diving deeper into this mental framework, and having those conversations, having those great exposures, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. I will be also doing some work on the Clubhouse application. Uh, the application, if you're not familiar with it, it's large chat rooms of different topics spanning across finance to personal growth to, politics, movies, music, all genres of entertainment, and just conversations. And I think it's a great platform for me to go on there and build a group of people to talk about some of the things that we've discussed here in this podcast. And that may be something I feature into the podcast. So looking forward to the future and possibly using that platform to continue to grow the podcast, grow the audience, and grow my brand. So thank you for tuning in to another week of the Unnatural Born Leader podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for everyone who got a copy of my book. I really, really appreciate the support. We're 40 copies plus shipped out. Looking forward to another 40 to 60 more. But I'm grateful every day, and I'm glad that 40 hands have touched my novel, and can't believe that we're at this point. But there's no turning back. There's no stopping now. We're going to continue to build, create, and impact. So that's how I'm gonna roll, and that's how I'm always gonna roll. And like always, guys, positivity is contagious, and attitude, guys, is truly everything. Have a great week, and I will talk to you guys next week.